There have been two political polls out in recent days. Both of them put New Zealand First under the 5% threshold that the party needs to be returned. Is New Zealand First fighting for political survival?
You know, I saw your colleagues in Australia, leading up to the last election in Australia, making idiots of themselves night after night after night, month after month after month, and they're all wrong. And you've got the same idiots making the same mistake in New Zealand. I suggest you don't make that mistake.
What's the accurate
well, the polls are
polling
trash. The polls are trash, and you know they are. And there's 18% out there undecided. And then there's a massive support base called the older people of this country that support New Zealand First. And who's polling them? Nobody. So I wish this thoroughly discredited industry called polling would stop its mischievous business
do you agree
in New Zealand.
These two polls show a clear trend that support for National is
So
rising.
now you're back and saying it again. You're making the same stupid mistake you made at the last election. Why are we in power when...
I wasn't here at the last election.
Oh, no, but your colleagues are. You've got a certain sort of reef-fish type about you. Sort of the same carrion eaters that keep on saying the same old things,
Would
even
you be
though,
saying this if
even though they've been
New Zealand
discredited.
First was above 5%?
No, I wouldn't be saying that. I'd say that was rubbish. If you said we were on 6% today, I'd say you're talking nonsense, because we're doing far better than that.
What are you doing then?
Oh, well, at the last election before the National Party...
Yeah, that's the last
No,
election.
no, stop. At the last election, we got within 1% of passing Labour. They were on 20, we were on 90%. And had they not changed the leader, we'd have come in second easily. None of your polls were saying that until it happened. Remember that? So I just wish that the polling industry would, for the first time for a long time on New Zealand, go back and re-examine its methodology, because it's not working.
Do you still believe Simon Bridges is a dead man walking?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Well, it shows. I mean, if his party's on 47%, right? And all
He could
that,
potentially form
and
an
all that,
government
no,
with a
of that number, almost 4 out of 5 don't want him. I don't think that's a winning formula. Now you work it out for yourself. If he, no, stop. No, but you're not even asking about Winston Peters, are you?
Okay,
If you went out there and asked all those old people who they want, I'd pass Simon Bridges tomorrow in the polls. You know that.
Are these old people not being...
No, of course they're not polled.
Why not?
Because your methodology, because you're not putting the money in to do the job properly. You've taken an industry that had credibility 30, 40 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, but as the country's changed and as the demographics changed and where the people live has changed, you've not put the investment in to make your polling systems accurate. That's why, I mean, you're, not you personally, but the kind of people that repeat what you say look so ridiculous in the United States.
We're 2 years into the current term, 1 year out from an election. What has your party, what has New Zealand First achieved in its first 2 years in office?
Well, nothing so minuscule or brief that I could possibly cover it for the next half hour. But if you want to know, we've actually given some solid experience and a head to government. We've been a power motor for good ideas, and dare I say it, a handbrake on bad ideas.
What are some of the bad ideas that you've put?
Oh, we're not going to. We're talking about the positives. The billion
You're
trees.
the one that mentioned it.
Well, I'm mentioning it, but I'm not mentioning it so that you can grab the first opportunity to be a good journalist and try and take me down that track. I'm talking about the successes. 1 billion trees, for example, our climate change initiatives. The fact of the matter is that we have a currency today which is seriously supportive of exporters. It was dancing around sometimes up to 84 cents US. It's 64, which is so much better for exporters, and we're an export-dependent nation. We've seen serious stability in terms of government spending. We put in major investments, but we still ended up with a $7.5 billion surplus, which I dare say in Australia would be a matter of serious envy. Now, what it means is we provide stable government as a coalition partner. We've focused on, as a coalition partner, from our perspective, the real issues that do matter. And I believe that we're going to be rewarded in 2020 because of that.
Just on one of those bad ideas, from your perspective, the government this year rejected a proposal for a capital gains tax. Do you consider that to be one of your party's greatest achievements? Because Labor...
Well, not our greatest achievements. We've got so many achievements that are great. But it was a serious achievement to demonstrate and make it very clear that this complex form of taxation was not required in New Zealand. And we made the case at the time that we'd never seen anywhere in the world where it worked effectively for the purposes which the architects laid out in the first place. In short, for example, it had been said that if you apply that, then you will not get an increase in housing pricing. Well, around the world where they've got capital gains tax, housing price movements way out of all proportion will happen anyway, and Australia was a good example of it. But it was a serious achievement to demonstrate and make it very clear that this complex form of taxation was not required in New Zealand, and we made the case at the time that we'd never seen anywhere in the world where it worked effectively for the purposes which the architects laid out in the first place. In short, for example, it had been said that if you apply that, then you will not get an increase in housing pricing. Well, around the world where they've got capital gains tax, housing price movements way out of all proportion will happen anyway, and Australia was a good example of it.